If sexism makes you feel uncomfortable, then it's best you click away now. Hi everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing Everyday Sexism by Laura Bates. I picked this up on a whim when I went into Waterstones because the cover drew me in. Look how pretty that is. Very nice. So I was drawn to it. I liked the sort of the floppy paperback of it, and when I read the back I was really intrigued. It's basically Laura Bates has gone into everyday sexism, and it's backed up by lots of facts and figures collected by things like YouGov and other such sites, and it also has a lot of first-hand accounts in here of everyday sexism. So was it any good? This is my first feminism book I've read, if you sort of don't count the Caitlin Moran book that I read that I just didn't get on with, so it was a DNF. So this was the first sort of sexism book that I've picked up since then, and I found it really, really fascinating. It was infuriating because I just didn't realise the extent of sexism. Obviously, being a female, I have experienced my fair share of sexism, and one thing that this book did was open my eyes to actually how much I have actually experienced, because a lot of things are bred into you, into your culture, to make you think that that's actually just acceptable. But reading this book really opened my eyes and made me realise that it's actually not acceptable, and I really found it extremely educational. It's a 5-star read. It's obviously non-fiction. There are some accounts from some very, very young girls in here, which I found to be pretty disturbing. Some of the things that teenage girls are going through today. I don't know if perhaps I was sheltered. I did experience a fair amount of sexism and a lot of unpleasant experiences myself as a teenager, but it does seem that things are getting a lot worse for the younger generation, which I wouldn't have expected. If anything, I would have thought that sexism was actually getting less prevalent, especially in the younger generations. I would have expected a little bit more education to be happening around the subject, but by all accounts it's just going on in our schools, it's going on in our playgrounds, and it's eye-opening, and it gives you sort of starter points if you do have a younger member of the family. Maybe you've got a young niece or a daughter, sister, that sort of thing, where you can actually open a discussion about sexism with her and let her realise that, you know, you don't have to suffer in silence. This sort of behaviour isn't correct and you don't actually have to put up with this. This isn't right. Some of the sexism accounts from women that are in higher education were staggering. I could not believe some of the quotes from professors and people who should be educated people just making such uneducated remarks. It's horrifying. So I found this unmissable, I would say. It was educational, it was pretty scary, it was very provocative, and it's actually opened me up to a lot of discussions on the subject with friends and relatives who I'd never actually talked about feminism with before. One of the things that I loved about Everyday Sexism is that there is some accounts into sexism that men face as well, and it also looks into sort of double prejudice, so the sexism that women of colour might receive, because they not only do they get racial discrimination, they also come up against discrimination against being female, and it really opens your eyes to what other people in the community around you might be going through. And I would say that if you're interested in anything that's going on in the outside world around you, if you're not a female yourself, if you've got a mother, if you've got a sister, if you've got a wife, if you've got a friend who's a female, if you've got a daughter, this is definitely something that you should really read, just to sort of give you an idea as to what's going on in society. It dips into the porn culture, which has been something that has that I've previously discussed with friends, things that I've found worrying, the porn culture in Britain today, and how that might affect boys as they're growing up and how that might affect the way that they treat females or the way that they see females. One of the main misconceptions that I hear about feminism is that it is a group of men hating women who just really don't want to have anything to do with men, they don't like them, everything that men do is wrong. And I find that this book really threw aside those assumptions, because not only does Laura Bates look into some of the events that are faced by men, everything that she points out that's affecting females, she does so in an educational way rather than a finger pointing blame type way. And it's basically put forward that sexism is actually something that we all must try and fight against. It's not just a case of, oh, men are horrible, men are sexist. It's not that at all. That this book doesn't do that at all. It basically puts forward that everybody should be treated equally. Everybody should be given the same respect as everyone else. Everybody should earn the same amount of wages. Everybody should be allowed to go out in public without fear of sexual molestation. And it's just puts forward what I would consider basic human rights that you would expect to be prevalent in the West today that are actually missing quite a bit. So if that sounds like something that might interest you, or it sounds like something that you'd like to read, this is Everyday Sexism by Laura Bates, and I would definitely pick it up. So hope you've enjoyed that video, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye!